This week brings another healthy and frightening batch of horrors on the printed page. Here's what's new in horror comics, July 13th, 2022. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. Let's check out This Week in Comic Book Horror, July 13th, 2022. The Devil Tree, number 5, is from Blood Moon Comics. The story is by Keith Rommel, with art by Wolfgang Schwandt. In this issue of The Devil Tree, expect that titular tree to do some devilish things. This series comes to a close, or more accurately, ends its first arc with issue 6, so those following this indie horror series need to get this penultimate issue. Van Helsing, From Depths, number 1, is from Zenescope Comics. The story is by Pat Shand, with art by... I don't know. No one is drawing this comic, apparently. It's not listed. But my buddy Pat Shand is writing it, so at least it'll read well. The descendant of Dr. Van Helsing takes on a toothy, slimy swamp beast reminiscent of one of my favorite Universal monsters, the creature from the Black Lagoon. Expect a bit of swamp-slimed ass and titties on the covers of this one, for sure. West of Sundown, number 4, is from Vault Comics. The story is by Tim Seeley and Aaron Campbell, with art by Jim Terry. Cowboys and vampires are on the docket for this wild comic from Vault. I read the first couple of issues, and this proves to be a wonderful mix of both genres. Expect the dust and blood to mix in this gritty horror western comic. Lady Death, Sacrificial Annihilation, number 2, is from Coffin Comics. The story is by Brian Pulido and Mike MacLean, with art by Diego Bernard. Brian Pulido's year-long event series continues as Lady Death seems to be the only one able to take on an all-powerful force named Iserectus. This pale-skinned warrior witch will need her best sword, some guts, and most likely some titties, ass to save the entire universe from destruction. Vampirella Strikes, number 3, is from Dynamite Entertainment. The story is by Tom Sniegoski, with art by Jonathan Lau. Along with those blood-soaked ass and titties, Tom Sniegoski has been delivering some vicious and gory horror action in a world infested with demons. Looks like a job for Vampirella and her team of monsters called the Dance Macabre. Sounds like bloody and bouncy fun. Loaded Bible, Blood of My Blood, number 5, is from Image Comics. The story is by Tim Seeley and Steve Orlando, with art by Guiseppe Cafano. Holy shnikes, it looks like Jesus has been betrayed by the Vatican, which is being controlled by Dracula himself. In this issue, only those Jesus has healed in the past, a group who call themselves the Saved, have a sliver of a chance to help old JC. More blasphemous hijinks ensue from Seeley and Orlando. Behemoth, number 1, is from Scout Comics. The story is by Chris Kipiniak, with art by J.K. Woodward. A young girl finds herself transforming into a monster. Seeking help from the authorities, she finds herself dropped off in a camp filled with other people turning into monsters. I love a good metamorphosis tale, and this one seems like an interesting one. Plus, I love the word behemoth, but I can't stop myself from saying it like Stephen Wright did in Reservoir Dogs. Behemoth. 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 Tales of Harrow County, Lost Ones, number 3, is from Dark Horse Comics. The story is by Cullen Bunn, with art by Emily Shaw. Looks like the country gal from Harrow County has traveled to the big city to meet her distant cousins, but once they show their true forms, will she survive the experience? It's Country Mouse meets City Mouse from horror meister Cullen Bunn's award-winning series. Impact Winter, number 1, is from Image Comics. The story is by Travis Beacom, with art by Stephen Green. When a meteor strikes the Earth, the fallout blocks out the sun, and wouldn't you know it, to make matters worse, the world gets overrun by vampires. I hate when that happens. Only a few noble warriors fight to keep the forces of evil at bay from the few remaining humans left on Earth. Sounds like an interesting twist on the survival horror genre. I'll definitely be checking this one out. Love that cover too. Army of Darkness vs. Reanimator, Necronomicon Rising, number 1, is from Dynamite Entertainment. The story is by Eric Burnham, with art by Iman Casalos. Let the body parts fly. When Dr. Herbert West gets a hold of a few pieces of deadites from the era of Army of Darkness, it prompts everyone's favorite hard luck hero, Ash, to spring into action and rev up his chainsaw hand. This seems to be a fun mix of two of my all-time favorite horror franchises. You better believe I'm tuning into this series. Finally, A Town Called Terror, number 4, is from Image Comics. The story is by Steve Niles, with art by Szymon Kudranski. I really like Steve Niles' compelling story of a man forced to return home to settle some family business. But the home he goes home to is in a town called Terror, and the family business involves monsters, madmen, and maniacs. Last issue, our hero beat the shit out of Frankenstein with his own severed arm. Who knows what kind of gnarly shit Niles has in store for us in this issue. That's about it for this week. I'll be picking up a bunch of these titles, including A Town Called Terror, Army of Darkness vs. Reanimator, Impact Winter, Behemoth, and maybe take a chance on Vampirella Strikes. How about you? Let me know which ones looked good to you down in the comments.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. God doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. To live inside